Erin. We're joined this morning by Louisiana Association of Business and Industry Head Cheese, Stephen Waguespack. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are y'all doing today?
Good. I'm just going to kind of recreate what we did last night real quick. When I walked up and I said, hey, can you join us in the morning on the radio? And you said, sure. Do you want sugar coating or do you want what's really happening? And I said, nope, the real story. How's it looking? You said, it ain't good.
That's a big dose of reality for this early in the morning.
Yeah.
That's what you want. I guess we can go there.
Okay, business folks should really hold on to their wallets. What are you anticipating as lawmakers will gather? It's already February, later this month.
Well, we're going to find out in a couple of days what the special session call is going to look like, what the governor's anticipation is. And thus far, they're saying that they want to focus on some of the spending reductions to address our deficit this year. But because they're skeptical that once they kick that ball around the yard a little bit, I think they're going to turn back to the tax code. I think the last four sessions, instead of attacking some of the underlying true problems of why we have a deficit, they continue to come back to the tax code. Every business tax credit exemption has been either reduced, altered, or eliminated over the last four sessions. And quite frankly, I'm not sure how much candy's left in that pinata. And so they're going to try to whack it again. I just don't know if they'll get there. But, manufacturing, when it comes to utilities, when it comes to manufacturing inputs, when it comes to inventory taxes, I think all of those have a big bullseye on its back going into this session.
You said a couple of seconds ago something that you used a phrase that we haven't heard before, and maybe you can tell us what it is. You said the true reason for the deficit. What's the true reason for the state deficit?
I think it's a number of factors. And, in Louisiana, we have a system where everyone has to run to Baton Rouge and kiss the ring in order to get anything done. All the taxation flows through Baton Rouge, the regulation, the spending, the political patronage, it all runs through Baton Rouge. If we look to our neighbors like Texas and others, their counties, our parishes, have much more of that autonomy and that spending. Taxation stays closer to the people in other states. In Louisiana, it all flows through Baton Rouge. So why is that an issue? Well, we have a budget that increased $2.9 billion last year, yet we're still in a deficit. So our spending has gone up, yet we're still saying we're broke. And the 5-year projections are it's going to go up about 3.7% each year by the legislature's own predictions. And so we can't keep up with that type of spending with this economy, an economy that has lost 26,000 jobs over the last 2 years.
Mr. Steve, pardon me, Erin asks all the time. The question we both ask all the time is, and where does all the money go?
Well, most of it's locked up. So you've got some federal money that has certain restrictions to it with how the feds require you to use it. You have a ton of it that's locked up. We always hear about statutory dedications. Even if you take off the table constitutional dedications and take off the table fee-for-service dedications, you still got about $1.5 billion that is just general fund that has been grabbed and allocated to some pet project over the years. You've got almost 400 of those funds. I think many of those need to be eliminated, put those dollars back onto the table for higher ed and health care, corrections, or whatever our priorities are. So we have too many dedications. The other piece is we have entitlement programs we refuse to reform in Louisiana. Our pension systems, just the K-12 system alone, the increased cost to the local schools is almost up $40 million this year. Every year it goes up. Other states have reformed their pension systems. Louisiana refuses to do so. Medicaid, we have done what we need to do to control some of the inflationary spending in that program. We talk about whether to expand or not. That's only one question. The question is, if you expand, how do you spend the money? And we don't reform that system. So expensive entitlement programs, too much involvement of Baton Rouge and state government in your lives and spending and taxation, and a lot of budget dedications. I think those are three huge factors which cause the deficits. And rather than trying to attack those, people just say, no, all that's great. We just need more tax dollars. And I just think the economy can only provide so much.
Stephen Waguespack with Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. You track the numbers. You're a business lobbyist. You rally for businesses. We raised $2 billion last year. It looks like we're going to have more problems, more put on businesses this year. Has this cost our state businesses and jobs, and will that continue?
Well, look, I hope it doesn't continue. I mean, look, I'm an eternal optimist, so we're gonna keep pounding that rock and hope for the best. But yes, it's true. Our tax code not only has become more uncompetitive, but it seems to change every 6 months. And so, look, for a big business, that makes us uncompetitive with other states. They're going to go into a more stable environment where they're not having to pay different tax codes every 6 months, and they're not getting sued all the time. For a small business, it's very hard to administer and to deal with when you've got these regs coming from D.C. all the time. At the same time, the state is changing the rules on your whole lot. If you're a small, store, it's hard to have a sales tax that changes all the time. How do you set up your machines and your cash registers and others to deal with that? So the state just makes it very complex. And that doesn't mean before we talk about all the multiple tax collectors we have here, the legal climate, all the other factors that make it a challenging business environment. And so we've got to start addressing some of those underlying issues, put some consistency out there, and maybe that way we can start to market ourselves more aggressively against other states.
Mr. Steve, just a little bit less than a minute, but quickly, with Trump in the White House and Louisiana having, to a great degree, an energy-based economy with EPA regulations loosening, do you see the energy business in our state turning around?
Yeah, I hope so. He issued an executive order earlier this week, which basically, put agencies on notice to scale back the regulations they're putting out there. That's a huge lift. Regulations are becoming a runaway train in D.C., and so that's a big deal. And I think as we promote domestic energy and energy development, that will help all parts of the state, including northwest Louisiana, where possibly some of this, development on the shale play we have here can reinvigorate and bring some more capital to local areas.